Conversations from March continues. Always good to see Father Bill Hammer, and we want to say hello to everybody in the Bardstown, Nelson County area that watch and listen to Conversations. Archbishop Kurtz, it's appropriate here during Lent that, first of all, the Y Catholic groups are meeting. They're very busy.
We're in our second year, and of course, it's an exciting year because we're dealing with the Creed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want to join Y Catholic, you can get on at any point.
It's really been a great gift, and you know that's what's nice about it, Reed. It's going to be a 4.5 year. We're not quite halfway through, so that people who might be viewing today and they say, "Well, gee, I'd like to hear more," I'd say come to our website, and we'll direct you. And of course, if they're already active in their parish, they can just call the parish or see their pastor over the weekend, and I'm sure he'll give them good advice on how to get
there is the
involved.
website you can go to get some more information.
Perfect, perfect.
Archbishop, they are talking about, in their small groups, are talking about prayer. Pick this topic up for me, and let's talk about it where the Creed is concerned.
Yeah, well, of course, here we are in the middle of Lent. We're approaching, at the end of this month, we'll be approaching the holiest week of the year, Holy Week and the Paschal Triduum. And so the fourth article, gosh, we say this every Sunday, and we do need to unpack it because we say it so rapidly, the Creed. But listen to these words. There's only 15 words. For our sake, he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried. The he, of course, is Jesus Christ. So every Sunday, we proclaim that creed of Jesus who was crucified for our sake, who suffered death and was buried. And that's, I guess, the part of the creed that during Lent we want to talk a little bit about.
I find it interesting, a lot of people may not be aware, but the first 4 sections of the Catechism are literally a line-by-line analysis of the Creed.
Yes, that's right. Of all the sections of the Catechism, there's 4 pillars, and the first is what we believe, or the Creed. The second would be the sacraments, the 7 sacraments. Mm-hmm. The third would be the 10 Commandments and our morality, and then the fourth is a beautiful section on prayer. So you're right, we're focusing this year on the first of those pillars within Y Catholic.
So we're going to be giving viewers a brief taste of what they're going to be discussing during the next season.
Yeah. In some ways, I think it is appropriate for us for many reasons to reflect upon the death of Jesus. One reason is over the centuries there have been so many misunderstandings. First of all, Reed, if you look at the Old Testament, the Messiah who suffered is something that gradually was revealed to the people. So Deutero-Isaiah, the second part of the prophet Isaiah, that book, talks about the suffering servant, the Messiah who would come, who himself is innocent, gentle, not wanting to crush a bruised reed, it says, and yet is the one called to bring about our salvation. Some over the centuries mistakenly thought, well, now is this Jesus had to die for an appeasing God, almost as vengeful God? Well, of course, that doesn't fit at all what has been revealed to us of a loving Father. But what is at the core is that once sin entered the world, every effort, and in fact, just look at each of our lives or the lives of someone who's viewing now, if we really want to love someone, it's going to be sacrificial. We're going to have to deny ourselves certain things out of the good of others, and sometimes we'll receive opposition from the world. Jesus was no exception. In fact, Jesus is both our example and our power. So he's the example of what it means to love another. What does St. Paul say to the Romans? It's one thing if somebody dies for a good man, but Jesus died for us while we were still sinners. So the death of Jesus on the cross is the supreme act of sacrificial love. And in fact, every Eucharist, we not only remember, but we make present that sacrificial death, and I know next month we'll talk about the resurrection, the sacrificial death and resurrection of Jesus for our own salvation.
So what we're saying is that salvation, as a Catholic Church, we believe that salvation is for everyone, not just a chosen few.
It is. And we know this. We know that the supreme gift of what makes us human is our free will. And boy, are we in danger sometimes of losing that free will or misusing, because in some ways, while salvation is offered to everyone, that Christ wants all to be saved, the Father wants all to be saved, we have the freedom to say yes, but also the freedom to say no. In fact, if we were robots and never had a chance to show love in return, there would not be the greatness of that gift of saying yes. But salvation will never be forced on any of us. So it's very important that people during the Lenten season organize their priorities to know that responding and receiving the invitation of Christ should be our first order of business.
What thoughts do you have about Jesus' death and what it means for all of us?
Yeah. Well, what I had said earlier, I think it means, first of all, that if we can come in touch with how hard it is for us to live a good life, to love, and in every one of our lives it's difficult, then we uncover the need for a Savior. If we don't think we need anything to be saved from, then what good is salvation? But when we uncover the fact of the frustration we feel in trying to love others, then to know that Christ came, died on the cross out of a supreme act of love, so that we might die to self, which is baptism, and rise to new life. And we'll be talking next month about what it means to rise to new life. So in a sense, the life of Jesus, which life on earth ends in his death and resurrection, is for us the hope of a life that is unending.
Give us some ideas of what we can do to prepare for Holy Week.
Yeah, well, one of the first things we can do is clear up our calendar. In other words, look at Holy Week, look at Palm Sunday, which is coming rapidly in March, and make sure that it doesn't pass us by. People should, first of all, be involved with coming to Mass, of course, on Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday. There's not Mass on Good Friday, but there is a special and a beautiful ceremony, and then, of course, the Easter Vigil and Easter. So that would be the first thing to say. Secondly, I think it would be good to seek out a publication, something that feeds us, maybe in the back of their church or maybe on the websites. They would find some good periodicals. I highly recommend The Record, which is, of course, our Catholic publication.
Yes.
That will give many, many opportunities for people to read, to pray, and, of course, what you said earlier, you talked about Why Catholic. It's never too late to become a participant in Why Catholic.
Some good thoughts here in Lent. Archbishop, the time is gone.
Yeah.
It goes rapidly.
Yeah.
We thank you for being here, as always, but most importantly, we thank you, the viewers and listeners, for joining us here on Conversations with Archbishop Joseph Kurtz. We'll see you for the April edition.